Reminding you, tomorrow night, Thursday, in the Canal Court Hotel, and then on the Friday you've got Phil Coulter in Newcastle and County Down. Coming home to the Mourne country is Phil Coulter, starting tomorrow night in the Canal Court Hotel. I'm Rowan Hand. Davy, how are you? Davy Beck, the
Morning,
PSNI boss in this part of the world. You're welcome. It's always good to see you. Difficult circumstances because we're still raw after the Sunday night debacle in Bessbrook.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
tell me as
indeed.
much as you can about it.
And indeed, and unfortunately, I suppose we could only describe this as a heartbreaking incident for everybody involved, and my officers and indeed the hospital staff all involved in this over the weekend. It remains a live investigation, so limited in terms of what I can say at this moment in time. But what I can say is that we received a call on Sunday evening to the Bessbrook area. My officers responded to the call very quickly and were on the scene within minutes. And unfortunately, we found a young girl, 2-year-old girl, who was in urgent need of medical assistance. Unfortunately, that young girl remains in the Royal Victoria Hospital in what's described as a critical condition. So again, our thoughts and our prayers are with her and our family at this minute in time. And I think we can all just hope that she makes a full recovery in due course, Rowan. What I can also say is that a male in his 20s was arrested very quickly in the area as well. That male remains in custody, and indeed my officers went to the court last night and have got an extension in terms of the length of time that we can question that particular person. So I have a team of detectives that they're actively working on this. They're trying to piece together what happened, and I would appeal to anybody who was in the area of Charlemont Square on Sunday evening who heard or saw anything at all to please contact the detectives here in Newry to allow us to piece this together.
I move quickly into the realm of generality. I'm drawing a line under that because it's active.
Yes.
Some you to say, and we respect that. But the thought strikes me that in situations of severe illegality, which occur in your book all the time, the rash action of a moment can destroy lives. It's gone.
So. Very much so. And that's a tragedy for everybody involved. And again, it just, we've talked about this in the past, about the one-punch issues and what have you. And again, you just appeal to people just to think, pause, step back and consider what they're doing and the potential impacts for everybody involved.
Yep. Halloween,
again, fast approaching. And again, it brings its own challenges, let's say. And again, it's important that we appeal to people to be respectful and responsible around Halloween, whether that's the old trick-or-treat or fireworks or all the other activities that people get involved in around Halloween. It's important that you think about your friends, your neighbours, particularly the vulnerable in our communities, and you think about the impacts of that type of behaviour on those people. I think particularly parents I would speak to at this stage, and I would ask them to please talk to your young people, talk to your children about these types of issues. And it's about setting boundaries. It's about knowing where your children are, who they're with and what they're doing, and being inquisitive. Because certainly I would rather that parents were inquisitive than we end up turning up to people's door, knocking them and returning their children to them after they've been involved in some sort of behaviour.
That must be part and parcel of the worst part of your job, the walk up the path from the gate to knock on the door. Very often you're going there to investigate, other times you're going there to bring bad news. Have you had to bring bad news to people's doors, Davy?
Unfortunately, yes, and it's never easy, and it's something you just have to rely on that experience, empathy and professionalism, and sometimes you're breaking very tragic news to people in
your own
circumstances. Yes,
as a human being.
Very much so. So you have a job to do and you have to do it professionally, but it's about showing that degree of empathy and compassion with people as well. But and again, linked to Halloween, the fireworks issue, is important that we remind people about the dangers of fireworks. Consequently, that's why they're actually illegal unless you have a licence, because they are so dangerous.
An old man in Dublin said to me on Saturday, we were talking about Halloween.
Yes.
He said to me, Rowan, I'll not go out. He said, they're actually throwing the bangers in your face now. They'll throw it at you and laugh. And he said, they don't realise the harm they're doing. It underpins what you're saying, that we need to be aware of the effect of our actions on the vulnerable in our community. And if we do that, we're on sacred territory. We're not going to do anything wrong if we just consider the vulnerability of the old and the very, very young.
Very much so it is. It's just about thinking, and again, it's bringing that back to that degree of how would you feel if it was your own father, grandfather, grandmother that was in that circumstance, and just being responsible around those issues. And we've seen young people lose fingers and damage their hands, and that impacts on the rest of their lives. So it's again about just trying to get people to think about those issues. And as I say, that's why fireworks are illegal. That's why there is a requirement to have a license. Bangers are illegal in all circumstances. It's illegal to use or set off fireworks on or near a road. So there's a number of offences and a number of issues that people can fall foul of the law, and again it can result in criminal convictions. So it's about thinking about those things, and let's face it, Ron, there's plenty of really good opportunities for people to enjoy Halloween.
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying, because all over the place now we're seeing the advertisements about Halloween festivities organised by Newry and Mourne Council.
Very much so. The council, the Police and Community Safety Partnership, communities themselves are organising a lot of diversionary activities. So all that stuff is out there, and I would encourage people to go along to those properly organised events and enjoy Halloween in that very responsible way. Am
I wrong in thinking, Davy, it's not as bad as 10 years ago? They were going mad at Halloween.
Yeah.
Now, perhaps through the work of the Police and Community Safety Partnership and such like, we're on an upward slope. We're going all right.
Very much so. It's that work between ourselves, communities, council, PCSP, all those groups coming together, but particularly in terms of communities taking ownership and saying, no, that's enough. We're going to work with the authorities, we're going to work with the police, and we're going to make Halloween a safer time for everybody, because effectively people were ruining their own communities, and all of us were spending a lot of money to put those things right post-event, and so it's encouraging right across Newry and Mourne. There are numerous diversionary events, so we're putting our money where our mouth is in terms of trying to provide those other activities for people to enjoy.
What else have you for me?
Rural crime, Ron,
still going on.
Continues to be an issue.
And you're computer marking, you're digitally marking equipment, aren't you? All that sort of thing.
Yeah,
that's an opportunity. People can do that.
Yeah. And certainly we recognise that the impacts that rural crime has, particularly in the farming and the rural community.
Yeah, people steal. But then, of course, the rural crime of burglary into houses in the country. I've seen, since we last talked, at least one situation of an old man in his home being held by rascals, and that still goes on.
Yeah, it still goes on, and it's just to reassure the community that we continue to address those sorts of issues, and we continue to work with communities to try and bring that awareness and security and improved crime prevention in those types of areas. We've done a considerable amount of work around rural crime, and we have in the region of now 300 farm watch schemes. Now, those in themselves will not solve crime, but they help that awareness and security, and it's about trying to reduce that feeling of isolation within rural communities as well, and bring that togetherness and that community spirit around those sorts of issues. So, we have now over 300 farms signed up to that. We have, my officers have marked over 300 trailers. That's a trailer marking scheme, and again, that's not going to stop all those trailers being stolen, but it helps. It minimises the risk.
It also makes the rascals think.
Yeah.
There's a wee bit of uncertainty in there for them.
And it helps us to quickly identify should that trailer be in that location, or if we find a trailer, to get that reunited to its owner. So it's all those sort of very simple, practical measures that we're incorporating to try and make the rural community safer. But there's still problems. We're still seeing livestock stolen, and the impact that has on small rural communities and farms. That can put a farm out of business in essence. So, again, we encourage everybody to be vigilant. If you see or hear anything reported at the time, tell us what your concerns are, tell us what your suspicions are. We would much rather have that report of a car acting suspicious and investigate it, and if it turns out to be bona fide, that's grand.
It's all right.
As opposed to getting that call 2 weeks later and somebody saying, well, actually we saw someone there.
Yeah.
So it's just encouraging that flow of information.
And it can be done confidentially.
Very much so. Again, you can contact the 101 number or through Crime Stoppers. So there's options available there, and if a crime is taking place then and there's that urgent need, we'll then use 999 and let us know what's happening. But we will continue to work with the farming and the rural community to try and do what we can to address that particular
because
issue.
good watching cuts the head of bad luck.
Yeah, very
which
much
is
so.
very important because sensible behaviour, knowing that if you're coming out late at night on your own, that poor lady in Belfast, she was in her car and the thugs came and pulled the door open, hijacked her vehicle. She was there with her baby. Either that at the late evening or in the early morning, knowing that you are a wee bit isolated and to keep the eyes open and check things out just before you make your move.
Yeah, we do. And I heard that lady being interviewed last night. And again, it's just that awareness that these things can happen, and they do happen, unfortunately. And by taking simple steps and measures, we're still seeing about a third of all our burglaries are through unlocked or unsecured doors and windows. So taking those sorts of precautions do have an impact and do minimise the risk. These people will take the easy option, and if we can minimise those options for them, well then it helps prevent crime, and as you say, prevention is better than cure.
Absolutely. Do you feel there's a huge swathe of bad people out there? Is it a small group who are constantly on the lookout for opportunity? Or would there be 30% of the population opportunistic and ready to be involved in crime? What sort of take have you got on that?
Most people are genuine good people who just want to get on with their lives in peace and safety and security. There are a small number of people who will be very opportunistic, as you say, in terms of crime. Some of them will go out specifically to commit crime, but a lot of it is about seeing an opportunity and taking that opportunity. It's about seeing an open handbag, it's about seeing an unlocked car, an open window, those sorts of things that prompts that. So in many ways, it's the person who is a potential victim, an opportunity then for someone who is a potential criminal, and when those come together, then that creates issues.
Out of the water, then.
Generally speaking, it's a relatively small number of people who are involved in the vast majority of crime, and we spend a lot of time targeting our activities towards those that cause most harm.
And you would have strong information, you would have strong intelligence, you would have a good idea.
Very much so, and we need to encourage the community to keep giving us that information. I have seen significant improvement in the flow of information over the number of years I have been here. But we just need to keep encouraging that. Don't assume that the police know. Keep telling us. Keep
How is
passing
Newry?
information.
How is Newry at the moment in general terms of crime? Are we doing all right?
We're doing okay. Crime is down from last year, so the region of 200 fewer victims of crime at this minute in time than what
That's
we had
200
last
victims,
year.
but then multiply that by their families, because if one's loved ones are criminalised, then we're all criminalised,
And again, we are solving more crimes this year than we did last year. And I'm very proud of that record that we have in terms of the number of crimes we solve in this area. And that's about partnership working and engagement with communities, and programmes such like this help ensure that we have that flow of information back and forward.
How's young Mr. Hamilton getting on?
Mr. Hamilton's getting on well. He certainly had a challenging time, particularly around the finances.
He called it as it was.
Yeah,
he didn't mess about.
And there's no hiding from that. I think all public services are faced with particular issues and difficulties and problems as we move forward. And already I have seen budgets reduced for initiatives and placing with the community projects and things like that. So we're seeing the impact of that locally, and we may well get to the point that we have a reduced number of officers. So that makes this type of communication actually more important in terms of developing that community.
Well, we're there with you, because we are dedicated to the community and dedicated to a good community, and that's what we're about. Talking about good communities, the 4th of December, it's the Newry Christmas Business Charity Dinner. You'll be there.
Hopefully so, yes.
You might take a table.
Who knows?
Give it a thought.
Yes.
We'll get something going as well, and we'll be able to help. And the other thing you might, and I'm constantly taking the opportunity to tell people about this, my winter warmth pledge. Now, you might like to ask me, what is your winter warmth pledge, Rowan? Shall I tell you?
Tell me.
Well, last year, because the Queen, God bless her, long may she rule over me, every year at this time sends me £200 for my oil because I'm 71.
Yes.
And I say thank you to her. Now, how very bad-mannered would it be of me to tell her, Mom, I don't really need it. Give it to the St. Vincent de Paul Society for giving out to people who are single-parent families, old people who do not have heat and who very, very often have to make the choice between heating and eating.
Yes.
Now, if I can get, again this year, we got about £5,000 last year to put oil in people's homes for Christmas. So if I can get people of the same age as me, similarly blessed that they don't really need it, it's nice to have it, but you don't need it, you don't need it, at a certain age, then we'll dedicate, we'll give the pledge of our oil money to St. Vincent's. And only St. Vincent's because they're well tuned to finding the right targets. Now, normally we would talk about St. Vincent and the Sally Ann because to get to both communities, but the expertise here in Newry exists within Vincent's to do that, to all members of the community, Roman Catholic, Protestant and none at all. So that's my winter warmth pledge. Keep your fingers crossed. Put the word out, Mr. Policeman, sir.
Will do, will do.
God bless you.
Thank you, Ron.
Take care. Good to see you. That's Davy Beck, the Chief of the Police in Newry. And Andrew, what are we going to do? Ads or are we going to music? Music now, sir.